What's going on, men? Welcome back to the channel. This is Star, and it is a beautiful sunny Sunday over here. I hope you guys are having a good weekend. If not, I hope it gets better for you and that next week brings some better vibes. Today, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Battlefront 2. One aspect of it that I've always loved doing on this channel, and that's the 1 versus 1 duels. It's really nice to be able to hop into Battlefront 2 after all these years, get into a game of Hero Showdown, and still find players who are down to do the 1 versus 1. It's my preferred way to play the game, so it's always nice to run into other players who also want to do it. And it's cool when it happens, but on the other hand, you also get a lot of players who aren't down with it, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, is the players who don't respect the 1 versus 1s. It's kind of an unspoken rule. If you see your teammate going at it with another player, and everybody else is watching, let's say it's in 4 versus 4s, right? And you got everybody else in a group and they're watching 2 players go at it. Just respect that one. You've got no business running in there and interrupting that duel. Now, it's pretty rare that that happens in 4 versus 4. Heroes versus villains is pretty much a free-for-all, and that's, why we got the mix of blasters and sabers, and it's just a bunch of chaos. But in the 2 versus 2 mode, Hero Showdown, that's really where players like to get into their 1s. And that's really where I'm talking about players interrupting duels and not respecting the 1, is they want to hop in there, they'll play Anakin and pull you away from the duel, they'll try to get some cheesy damage into you, and then they'll walk away and act like they won. But what's most interesting about it is you'd think this is new players, right? You'd think this would be low levels, white levels, and they just don't really understand that players want to have these 1 versus 1s. They're just so excited to play Luke Skywalker, so they run in there mashing the attack button, right? But it's not always the case, and take this footage in the background as a clear-cut example of that. I was dueling this Luke. This Luke, by the way, was level 5, I think, at the time of this fight. Their partner, the Anakin, I want to say he was mid-100s, like 150, something like that, and mid-duel yoinks me with that pole and tries to get some damage in. So it's not always the low levels. Sometimes it's the more experienced players who either just don't care, or they're so desperate for the win that respecting the duel is just out the window for them. It is what it is. Like I said, it's always the best when you get to take those players out, but it's just fascinating to see the kinds of players who do that. You'd think it's the low levels, but surprisingly, in my experience, for the last few months, I've seen a lot of low-level players actually down with the 1s. So I don't know if they've been watching YouTube videos and they see content creators doing it, and so they want to copy that behavior and get in Hero Showdown and do some duels also, or whether it's just an instinctual thing because there's less going on. I notice players will hop into Hero Showdown when the 4 versus 4 mode gets to be too much, because let's face it, heroes versus villains is chaos. That mode can be ridiculous sometimes, so players see 2 versus 2 and you still get to play heroes, and it's a lot more appealing. You think 2 versus 2 is going to be a little bit more tame, and to a certain extent they're right. When you run into those pairs, those duos who are super sweaty, they just know each other's combos, they've got that synergy, they know how the heroes work, that can be tough to deal with, especially when they're not down with the 1s. And to be fair, it is a 2 versus 2 mode. It's not like it's advertised as a 1s mode. It's just the most convenient mode to have the 1 versus 1 experience, so that's why players tend to do it. But yeah, dealing with those duos who really know the game, that's a nightmare. But it's always nice when they're down with the duels too, because usually they're good enough players where they can actually hang with the 1s. They're just playing the game as intended, I guess, and who's to fault them for that? And fair play if they start the round with the intention of doing 2 versus 2. It's not like they're starting one of them having a duel with another player and then the other one hops in halfway through. And that just kind of brings me right back to the whole point of this video, is that just respect the duels, man. In Hero Showdown or HVV, if you see 2 people going one-on-one, just watch, hang back, let them have it. In HVV, it's a little bit different because, like I said, it is a free-for-all, and it's almost expected for your teammates to come back you up. If you're kind of backed into a corner, another person's got the upper hand, and they're about to take you out, you would appreciate Vader coming up and choking them and helping you and saving your ass, right? But nah, sometimes players just want to have that 1 versus 1. And let them. It's an unspoken rule. You'll see it in YouTube comments all the time. Anytime that there's a video that has to do with lightsaber duels or even just the lightsaber combat in general, I see it on a lot of my guides and tutorials. I'll get comments that say, respect the ones, respect the duel. And they're right. It's really annoying having another player hop in and interrupt that flow. Because a lot of Battlefront 2's gameplay really is about flow. Darth Maul is a perfect example of this. He's a character who has a lot of combos. His abilities flow one into the next pretty smooth, like pretty flawlessly, to be honest with you. He's a lot of fun to play. And if somebody interrupts that, you know, all that flow goes out the window. You could have had a sick sequence lined up and your teammate just ruined it because they got greedy. And it could even be something small, like let's say you're in the middle of a duel, your teammate is Darth Vader and they just throw their lightsaber at your opponent and they get that damage in, right? That's a little bit of extra damage that you yourself did not do, so it makes any victory that you get feel unearned. It's the same thing when I see a Yoda activating their presence in the middle of a duel, because if the teammate is in that presence radius, then they're going to get that health buff. Or if it's another blaster hero who's interrupting the duel, just any form of interruption, it just completely throws off the flow. And even if you win that duel, it makes it feel unearned because it wasn't all you, you know. It's supposed to feel earned. You're supposed to earn that win. That's the whole point of a 1 versus 1, is to see which one of you is the better player. So if there's outside interference, you're not really seeing which one of you is better. Sometimes players just get greedy, or they just want it to be an asshole. And, you know, you can't control people. You can't stop that behavior, really. It's a gentleman's agreement, and some people just aren't gentlemen about these kinds of things, and it is what it is. You just gotta roll with the punches and move on to the next one. That's really what I do. If you can't take them out, or if they're consistently interrupting the duel, it sucks if you're fighting an opponent who's actually a worthy opponent and you're having a fun sparring match between them, but it keeps getting interrupted. There's just nothing you can do. So you might as well just back out of that round, find a new one, and with any luck, you'll matchmake against that same player again, because let's face it, the player pool in Hero Showdown specifically is relatively small, and Battlefront 2 as a whole is nowhere near as popular as it once was. So the player base in general is really, really small compared to where it was. And the player base in Hero Showdown is naturally going to be even smaller than that. So the dedicated players who stick with that mode are still going to be there. You're going to run into them time and time again. I mean, take it from me, I see the same names all the time. It's cool because I see new players too, but when I see those familiar names, it's just nice to see that the old guard is still playing this game. And we're probably going to keep playing this game for many years to come. It is, surprisingly, still the most relevant modern multiplayer Star Wars game that exists, at least until Galactic Racer comes out in a couple of months. I think that game will overtake Battlefront 2 as the most relevant multiplayer game. I would say that other games like Jedi Survivor or even Outlaws, as much criticism as it got, I think Outlaws and Survivor will stand as the better games overall, just in the eyes of the general player base. Especially Jedi Survivor, that game is peak. But that's really why I can still get away with having these rant videos, which, by the way, let me know in the comments if you like this style of video, guys. This is kind of cool, just sitting here at my desk, watching my own Battlefront 2 gameplay and just kind of talking about the game as I'm witnessing it. This is kind of fun, and it takes me back to better days when we were playing this game. If there's other video topics that you want me to talk about, like this one is about respecting the duels, but if there's other aspects of Battlefront 2 that aren't necessarily gameplay or like tips and tricks, and maybe it's more of a cultural thing or a community standard, let me know in the comments below, and maybe I can make a rant video about that too, because I've been with this game since the very beginning. I have seen all kinds of players come and go. I have seen the different stages of this game as it evolved, and it's just cool being in this position and sort of being at the finish line. But the problem with that is that we've been at the finish line for several years now, and it's still the most relevant multiplayer Star Wars game that's out there. And that's kind of a crime at this point. I'm thrilled that Galactic Racer's coming out, but it's a bit of a crime that we still don't have Battlefront 3. It's a crime that we haven't had a relevant multiplayer shooter, specifically a shooter, something that can take the place of Battlefront 2 until we get the next iteration, if we're ever going to get one. We were supposed to get that one Mandalorian first-person shooter. I think Respawn was developing that one. And then as soon as we were about to get more information about it, they canceled that project, so we were out a Star Wars shooter there. There was a number of other projects that got canceled. I think there was another Battlefront spin-off they were working on, and that got canceled. So we've been getting shafted when it comes to Star Wars games up until recently. It really seems like they're making a shift and focusing more on Star Wars, and we're seeing that with projects like Galactic Racer, like Zero Company, like Fate of the Old Republic, which also got announced at one of the more recent Game Awards. It happened a couple of months ago, but it's really cool seeing this. There's just still no Battlefront 3, and that sucks. It's nice that Galactic Racer has multiplayer because we need that. We just need Star Wars multiplayer, man. It's such a perfect universe to have a multiplayer game in. I don't understand why the games industry just has this aversion to giving the players what they want. It really makes no sense. Battlefront 3 would sell so well, and I think they know it. I think they just saw how poorly EA's Battlefront, both of them, both Battlefront 2015 and Battlefront 2, they launched so poorly, and I think the industry as a whole kind of saw that, and they're a little bit reluctant to tackle the franchise. I mean, I made a video about it, I want to say 2 years ago now, how Battlefront 2 actually did huge damage to the industry as a whole, because when it came out, that was when loot boxes and the pay-to-win structure was at its peak, and Battlefront 2's launch completely dismantled that structure of monetization. It made the industry kind of back away from it. And this is what I talk about in the video, is how after Battlefront 2 launched, we saw a tremendous decrease in the push for loot boxes and the push for pay-to-win tactics. Battlefront 2 really saved gaming, if we're being real. And I'll try to link that video if I can find it. It's been a long time since I made it. But anyway, I'm just kind of ranting at this point. If you guys like this style of video, again, let me know. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay in the background. I've been playing a lot of Hero Showdown with the intention of having it in the background for these little rants and these talks. So let me know if you're into it. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed this one. Respect the duels, chat. Chat like I'm live right now. I love it. Anyway, like the video, give us a thumbs down if you didn't like it, but either way, consider subscribing if you're new, and I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Leave some suggestions for more rants below, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.